Okay, so here we go. Hello, hello, hello. This is Ciera Payton, and you are listening to the Trive podcast, which is for the Inspired Thriving Tribe. Look, let's just get into it. Let's just call out the whole pink elephant in the room. I have not been posting podcast episodes or content on YouTube for a while now, and the big reason why is that your girl has been very, very busy. I don't know if you know, but I founded a nonprofit organization called the Michael's Daughter Foundation. It started off as a summer camp project that I started back in 2014. I got some funding from the Department of Cultural Affairs here in Los Angeles. They sent me out to Van Nuys, Panorama City area, and I was doing filmmaking and playwriting workshops out there since 2014. Then during the pandemic, we decided, I say myself and my friends, helped me to create it into a nonprofit organization. And so it has taken off literally. In 2022, I was speaking to my friends who were my board members about shutting down the organization because we just weren't getting any funding. And then all of a sudden, at the end of 2022, we found out that we got funding from the state of California, and then we got more funding from LA County. And so we started off being in 2 school sites and then expanded off into 3 school sites and 2 juvenile detention facilities. And so, yes, I have been very busy, not only, building this thing, but also stepping into a leadership role that I hadn't had a lot of experience in before. I am the CEO, executive director, and founder of the Michael's Daughter Foundation. And so all of the things that I've been meaning to do with the Trive and my, other like personal side projects, at times those have had to have been on the back burner, as they say. And so I hadn't had time. I hadn't had the ability to really carve out time to do the Trive podcast or post here on YouTube. But now I'm here. Now I'm back. So we are in this. And look, a lot of the reason behind the delay as well is that I'm really trying to work on just scaling back my need to have everything set up properly, my need to, have everything look nice and polished and perfect. I think those things are very important, but, I used to set up the lights and, the camera and all the equipment and everything. And right now I'm like, we could just do this right here at my desktop. I think the lighting is fine. Hopefully the sound is great, and we're good. All right. So anyway, with all that said, welcome, welcome, welcome. Like I said before, this is a space for the Inspired Thriving Tribe. And I built this because I wanted to help actors, writers, creatives, artists to just come together in community, but also learn some tips and tricks and tools on how to just navigate your creative journey. And so today, what I want to talk about is actors, creatives, artists. You need to mind your business. And so I've been wanting to do this episode for a while because, like I said, I've shifted into the CEO, executive director role of a nonprofit organization. And I hire a lot of artists, actors, writers, screenwriters, filmmakers, animators to come and work on our programs, to go into the schools and into the juvenile detention facilities to teach screenwriting and animation and filmmaking. And I'm not calling out anyone in particular because the team is incredible. I love these people. These are just some incredible, amazing teaching artists who are also experts in their fields. And in between gigs, they come and they lend their expertise to the organization. But I would say that over the time of being in this position, I've harkened back to mistakes that I've made as an artist while working my sideline job. And, and also just as an actor, some of my pitfalls that I've gotten into when I was first starting out and not really understanding how to be professional, how to really mind my business, as an artist, as an actor. And so I wanted to create this and just kind of open up an open forum. So please, down in the comments below, share any thoughts, share any ideas that you may have or experiences or even any little tidbits that you've learned along the way so that somebody else can get some knowledge as well. So Anyway, so the big thing that I just want artists, actors, creatives to just take away from this episode, and I hope that this is the big thing that you take away, is that you really, really need to view yourself in whatever setting you're stepping in, whether that be your sideline job or your, main priority job as a creative. I really want you to guys, I stutter here because it's so important to me, but I really want you to start thinking about yourselves as an entity, as a brand. You're a brand, you're an entrepreneur. And so you have to represent yourself to the fullest in everything that you do. And what I mean by that is that you have to keep it professional always, and think about how your professionalism is going to help you really soar and exceed in whatever field you're in. All right. The reason why this is important is because it really does help to just build relationships and also create longevity in the business. I think that relationships, the number one key thing to, having really great relationships in this business and everything that you do is by keeping it professional, and it also helps to sustain your career and all the things that you are doing. There's so many stories out there. I get wind of these things all the time where, like, somebody was just showing up at their job as a security guard on the lot, and they were always positive, always coming in with a good, positive attitude every day. And then a director or someone was like, man, I like that guy. I want to work with them. I want to put them in a role. Or, the Antoine Fisher story where he was a security guard on the lot, and somehow, some way, his script ended up into someone's hands, and then lo and behold, his life story gets made into a movie. These things don't happen if you are showing up to your sideline jobs disgruntled, agitated, annoyed, thinking that you're better or above, doing these things. You have to show up in these spaces. Although it's not the thing that you want to do, you do have to show up and show up professionally, and then also take it another step, your light shine through in those spaces, because I'm a firm believer that those things will help you out so much. So it's funny because I kind of got off on a tangent there because that's not fully what I wanted to touch on, but we're there already. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go there with that. So what I want to say is, again, I'm an actor, and I've been in this business now for some years, for a very long time now. And throughout my journey as an actor, I have had lots of many different side jobs. The very first thing I want to say, though, around the side job thing is I want you to reframe your mindset around the word side job, side hustle, stuff like that. I really believe that a healthy, thriving artist is like the best artist ever. And so the way that you get there is really by shifting your mindset and just really be mindful of the words and the things that you put out there. And I feel like sometimes, side gig, side hustle sometimes can kind of like evoke like a kind of scrappy mindset. And so for me personally, I've just started calling them sideline jobs or second line jobs, because I'm from New Orleans, and the whole like second line parade route thing kind of just falls into the Mardi Gras-ness of it all, because you have your main line in Mardi Gras, and then you have your second line where like some other, fun activity is happening as well. And so, where my acting career is the main line, the main parade route, all the other things that I do on the outside of acting that also play into the acting, those are my second line things. And so jobs, gigs, stuff like that fall under there. But the story I really want to share here is that I've had so many jobs, literally waiting tables, bartending, catering, bedazzling iPods and electronics for kids' birthday parties. And I just always, not always, I would say that there were some jobs that I definitely did not show up as my best self in. I was disgruntled. I was kind of just negative and just showing up, not wanting to be there, thinking like, oh, I should be acting. I should be on set right now, but I'm doing this job. And I would tell you what, those are the longest jobs I had, and the jobs that paid the less, and the jobs that I was just miserable in. And then I think the turning point for me, just mindset wise, I did start doing a lot of self-help work and reading every book and guru out there that you could find. But I had that attitude, that negative attitude. I would say I was living in that kind of mindset, lack, struggle, poverty mentality, hate my job, not happy with my life, really up until let's say maybe 2014, 2015, which is actually around the time that I started to shift my sideline jobs, my second line jobs from to try to find things that are more fulfilling for me, like creating the Michael Starter Foundation. But I was working this job and it was like a travel job. And the thing that I hated most about the job is that I felt like it took me away from my passion as an actor because I was required to go to these different cities and do this job that I wasn't really passionate about at all. And it would take me out of the running for being, able to go to in-person auditions. And this is before the big self-tape boom. So I didn't have the opportunity really to like put myself on tape, for an audition. And so when I got this job, it was really hard for me to take it, but I had to take it because I had to make money and it paid really well. And so anyway, the job, we were in Utah and I just was a negative Nancy and just a Debbie Downer. And I remember one of my coworkers was like, hey, let's go skiing. And so I decided to go skiing. Never skied a day in my life, but I learned pretty quickly and I had a great time. And we decided I'll take a break. And then they were like, hey, you want to go and do another run? And I just had some hot cocoa and everything. It was pretty relaxed. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. Sure, I'll go ahead and do it again. And then I went up and I tore my ACL and meniscus. And so I was on crutches and I couldn't work that job anymore. But I know looking back at it that I was in such a negative mind state. That accident, it was kind of a blessing and an eye-opening moment for me because it really helped me to just kind of shake out of woe is me, life is so hard type of mentality, and also just reframe my mindset of just being appreciative and being of service to the jobs that I'm a part of. Because that was really hard to, now be on disability and not be able to walk or do things or, whatever. And I feel like if I was in a better state of mind and a more positive, optimistic state of mind, I wouldn't have gotten to that accident. And, we can all argue otherwise, but I do think that a lot of my mindset catered to that unfortunate event. And so, after I was able to walk and drive, I was in the midst of really creating the Michael Sorter Foundation, but it was, it was early beginnings, and it was only summer camps. And the funding that I got, while it was incredible to have it, it wasn't enough to sustain me throughout the year. And so I really started to look for teaching artist jobs because I really enjoyed working with youth. And I knew that, that was a space that I could really, make an impact, make a difference in. And so I started getting teaching artist jobs and I was working with the Center Theater Group. And really, I would say the real big breakthrough for me was 2016, 2017. I was working these jobs and I was going to different schools and I was driving all over LA County and I wasn't making really anything, hourly. But what I would say is that, that company, Center Theater Group, and they did pay well, but I still had to like supplement, money and just try to still figure things out because it was a challenging time financially. But I just remember all the self-helpness of it all and shifting my mindset around the sideline job and really just saying to myself, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to be of service and just really tap into my creativity, different parts of my creativity in a different space that isn't necessarily behind the camera or in front of the camera. And I had a blast. I couldn't wait to get to those classes. Some of the schools I had to drive, 90 minutes, 2 hours to, and I was making like $40 an hour and only teaching for 2 hours a day. Or, I would teach 2 hours or 90 minutes at this one school and then have to drive all the way out to Thousand Oaks to teach for, 90 minutes or 50 minutes at another school, or just literally just drive all around, LA. But it was just such a rewarding experience. And I just remember just really going in every day, just positive and just having fun and laughing with these kids and then teaching them, about how to tell your story or, reading plays and stuff like that. And just really seeing them thrive and soar. And like, we were working in communities that were really, having a lot of challenges. And so to see these kids really make these differences in their lives and, see them be impacted by the work and the things that, me and my co-teacher were teaching them was just so inspiring. And around this time, 2017, I just really, again, just really was in that space of just like gratitude, showing up, being of service, being grateful for the job, being grateful for the opportunity, knowing that something is going to come along. And in 2017, I booked, shortly after that, I booked Medea's family funeral with Tyler Perry at Tyler Perry Studios. And I just remember the kids were so happy and, everybody that I was, working with, they were happy. And I went off and I did the movie. And then I, came back and, was still trying to figure other things out. But then I ended up booking Ballers, working with The Rock. And then shortly after that, I ended up booking The Walking Dead. So like when I was in that energy, things were just like moving and flowing, within my career and just within my life, and then 2017, towards the end of 2017 is when I met my now husband. And so, which was incredible, right? And so, again in 2019 is when I was just still working, taking on more teaching artist gigs and working as a teaching artist. And I just remember just being in a very just optimistic, state of mind. Yeah, I was filing for unemployment and still like trying to supplement income, but I just knew that like if I maintain this energy and this positive mindset and just knew that I was contributing my creativity in such a cool way to youth, things were going to break through. And I remember April, I want to say March or April, maybe it was May. I can't remember, but Dia's family funeral came out and we were on billboards. And I just remember the kids were just so excited. And I was starting to audition for a lot of like big projects and big things. And I just kept getting a lot of no's, which we can get into later. But I remember, there was so much evidence for me to allow that to get me down. And there were times that I did get down because the no's were like really harsh no's. Those no's when they give you all the reasons why you're not enough, which is so stupid. But I remember in May, I auditioned for a series and I went and I tested for it. And I didn't get it. And my manager was just like, what's wrong? Like, why aren't you booking? Blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, we don't do that here. Like, no, cut that out. My time's coming. I'm doing my thing right now. I'm auditioning. I'm teaching these kids. I'm having a blast. Stuff's going to work out for me. No, not listening to that. And I kid you not, about a week or two later, I had an audition for the Oval. And then a couple weeks after that, while I was promoting She's Gotta Have It, I found out that I had to go to Atlanta to audition for a callback for producer session in front of Tyler Perry for the Oval. And then I booked the role on the spot. And then a couple weeks after that, I was back in Atlanta filming the Oval. And I have no doubt that had I not approached, my sideline stuff with, humility and, just gratitude and a positive attitude, that I would not have gotten that role. I know, or the career breakthroughs would not have happened. So this is a whole tangent. This was actually going to be a whole other podcast that I was going to share this story and talk about this, but I just wanted to like really drive that point home and like, look in the comments down below, or, wherever you're watching this, if you want me to expand on that story, I definitely will. And we can get into it because there's a lot of other things that happened in between there. But I think like that's the big thing that I want you to understand while you're on your journey. Everything else that you're doing, it seems like you're doing it outside of your creativity, but it is in lieu of your creativity. It's in addition to your creativity. It's the thing that's going to enhance your creativity. So, I used to hate this phrase, how you do one thing is how you do everything, but I really now believe it. Now I understand it. And like, I feel like if you approach life in such a positive, gracious, gratitude, appreciative way, it's going to reflect back to you so many new things to be grateful and appreciative of. All right. So let's get into some, the meat and the nooks and crannies and the nuts and bolts here about what I mean by actors mind your business. Okay. So the big thing so that's the headline thing, is that I just want you to approach everything outside of your main line in a good, positive way, and approach a lot of it with a business mindset and just with awareness. And what I mean by awareness, I really want you to just think about what you're presenting out to the world, out to your reps, and to the people that you work with for your meantime and in between time, jobs, gigs, projects, opportunities, stuff like that, and even on social media. The big thing that I have seen with artists and actors, creatives, is just a lack of awareness around communication. I think that we can be sometimes very emotional creatures. That is our superpower. We create from emotional places. We can bring people to their knees or elevate them up all the way up to the heavens with our emotional range and our emotional depth, but we don't know how to translate that a lot of times into business. And in business in general, it's not personal and it's not emotional. And it's really hard sometimes to really understand that and really take that on. And I think a lot of times we really do approach everything that we do sometimes from an emotional and a creative space without having the awareness of, oh, I'm in the space with my agent or manager right now, or I'm in the space with an executive producer right now. I can't, communicate them to the same way that I would as, one of my actor friends in my acting class, or, my best friend, or, my cousin back home. And so what I mean by that is I want you guys to really be thoughtful about the emails and text messages and just the way that you're corresponding with your team or people that you're reaching out to, or even just people on production teams. Now, the reason why I say this is something I've had to work on a lot. And it really wasn't until I got with my husband that I was like, ooh, I write very long-winded and emotional emails. And I'm writing this to, the first AD or to, my agent or manager. And it's not that they don't care. It's just that one of the biggest assets that you have in life is time. So many other things you can get, time and health, those are your biggest assets. All right. And so even outside of the business world or corporate world of it all, you don't want to waste people's time. You don't want to waste people's time with being long-winded and being emotional and being unprofessional. And so, what my husband has taught me over the years is just how to craft emails to your team or to coworkers or to people that you're working with on a production that are nice, sweet, kind, professional, and gets to the point. I always now, if I have a question about something on production, I'm always like, hey, hope all is well. Reaching out because I had a question about A, B, C, and D. Please let me know if it might be possible for you to answer that. And looking forward to hearing back from you. Have a great day. Thanks. Just nice, simple, and easy. Also, too, as I've been in this leadership position as an executive director, CEO, I am now, working with city official, county officials, state officials, people that are in executive positions with school boards and, LA County probation and stuff like that. And I'm starting to learn like how, people work and having to adapt to that. And a lot of times it's just keeping it nice, pleasant, and sweet and short. What do you need? What do you want? Or here's an update. Thank you so much. And I think that actors sometimes, in the past, not the team that I have now, but I've gotten like long-winded emails, lacking clarity, things that I have to try to like translate and decipher. And it's just something that we as actors, we hadn't been taught, especially if you've gone to like, conservatory or whatever. Everything's so focused on your instrument as a body and your emotional tools, but not so much of like your business minded tools. And I really think that the people that really master these things, both sides of those things, are the ones that really thrive. And so you have to just keep in mind that you're a brand. How do you want to represent yourself as a brand to everybody that you interact with? And it always starts with communication. And a lot of times in today's time, we're communicating via email, social media, and text. So what are you saying out there? All right. Sometimes it's helpful. You got to make sure you're spelling people's names properly. You're addressing them, respectfully, and you're keeping it nice, sweet, and short. Okay. Also, in this business, there's this thing about artists and actors. We can just work, all hours of the night or whatever. You don't want to be texting, emailing, or reaching out to people outside of business hours. It's unprofessional. All right. You want to keep and maintain professional business hours, the 9 to 5 or, 9 to 10. I mean, sorry, the 10 to 6 type of hours, and really only reach out to people, after hours if it's a real emergency. I have, been bad at this for so long. I have been a part of productions and or reached out to my reps at all hours of the night, and not taking into consideration that, hey, they are clocking in, they're working, corporate hours, and for me to add on an extra stress and extra after hours stress is, it's inconsiderate. And so I just want artists to really think about, you got to reach out to your team. Obviously, if it's, there's a deal that's pending, or like, information is coming in, ask yourself, can it wait until tomorrow morning? If not, you can do just an email, say, hey, whenever you get a chance, you don't have to look at it now. Or if it's urgent, yeah, reach out.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying this conversation like I know you are, then I have some additional offerings for you. Head on over to the Trive and sign up on our mailing list. There, you not only get first dibs on meetups, workshops, and special events tailored to our community, but you'll also get a special discount code on the Creative You course. Now, this course is all about helping you to level up and elevate your creative career. Because listen, I've been in this business now for nearly 2 decades, and I've experienced all the highs and lows, and I've developed so many tools to navigate those, and now I'm sharing them with you. So go to theintribe.com/cultivate and check out the Creative You course. And last but not least, just for tuning in and signing up, I'm giving you a freebie. It's our InTribe Hive Level Up Guide. It's a special daily guide for practicing ways to be your optimum creative self. Because listen, an all-around healthy artist is a thriving artist, and that's what we're all about here. So check out our site, sign up for our newsletter, get a special discount code for the Creative You course, and take off with your new InTribe Hive Level Up Guide. It's new beginnings here, and so let's get inspired and thrive only at the InTribe. See you soon. Now, back to the episode.
I would say one of the biggest tools that I have used, that I've picked up for business stuff, is scheduling emails. I don't have the feature to schedule my text messages, but scheduling emails is chef's kiss for me. Yes, like things will pop up in my mind at, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. I'm not going to email, my team about this, or, production or whatever about this, because they're already like, stressed and figuring things out. But what I can do, I can schedule the email to go out the following morning at 8:30, 8:45 a.m. or 9 a.m. as they're arriving to the office, and have it top of the day for them to review and look at. So that's just one little thing for you to think about. Like, how are you communicating? When are you communicating? What are the things that you're saying in your correspondence? To just put on a more professional, approachable demeanor. In terms of communicating too, I just wanted to share this one little story. And this is why I thought about this, because I've been wanting to do this episode for a very long time. But a couple years ago, I had an actor reach out to me, and he was so upset and so annoyed. And he was just like, man, Ciera, like, how do you handle your team? How do you handle your agent and manager? And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, my manager, he won't meet with me. He won't set a meeting with me. And he told me he's like really busy. And I called him, and then we got into a big argument on the phone. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, wait. And I'd asked him, how did this all like happen? And he, said that he had a phone call, and he's like, I'd love to stop by. And, and it just, I don't know, I think some wavelengths have gotten crossed. But knowing this person, I knew how he presented himself, and I knew that, at times he could come off a little abrasive. And so I told him, I said, hey, let's just pull it back a little bit. First of all, I want you to take into the frame of mind that these people are working for you. This doesn't mean like you can't reach out to them. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think, when you have a great relationship with your agent and manager, like that's just, it's so beautiful. I shared a video not so long ago about me visiting with my reps, and it was great. But you have to really take into consideration that they're not only repping you, they're repping a whole bunch of other people. They got, they have families, they have other things going on their plate. You don't want to try to fill up unnecessary time of like just trying to kick it with them if it's not necessary. Now, if you want to try to do a little check-in or whatever, I always suggest to people, schedule a 15-minute Zoom call. Hey, can I just get 15 minutes of your day? Just want to check in, say, hey, let you know what I've been up to. Want to get some sense of what are some things that are going, that you see coming across your desk. And yeah, just want to pop in and just say, hey, for 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. That's it. And it's short and sweet and simple. And people appreciate that so much because again, what? Time and wealth. I mean, sorry, but wealth is a big asset. Time and your health, two of the biggest assets that you can have. And so you don't want to waste your time and you don't want to waste other people's time, especially the people that can help you, you know, reach your dreams, reach your goals, and also make money. Okay. So if you want to try to get some FaceTime with your reps for whatever reasons, I always say just schedule a little tiny, quick Zoom call. That's it. And know what you want to talk about. Don't get on there, just be like, oh, hey, I just want to say hey. And whatever. Just like, or if you do just want to say, hey, just make it about that. Hey guys, just wanted to pop on and say hi. Hope you're doing well. This is what I've been up to. Just want to let you know. Want to let you see me again. That's it. Keep it moving. Okay. The other thing is I want you to really start thinking about carrying how you carry yourself. And this is going to be a tricky one. And I know that a lot of people are not going to agree with me on this, and that's okay. That's all right. I'm willing to be disagreed with. That's not a big, thing for me. But if part of your thing as an artist is being a big personality, being, larger than life everywhere you go, you better back that up with being so professional. Or if part of your personality is being the stoner person, the whatever, you better back that up with being one of the most brilliant, talented artists, actors, writers, creatives who walks into the room. Okay. I mean this wholeheartedly. Now, it's not enough to just be this, persona and then show up late or not know your lines or not respond to emails or text messages or just wing it, because that does not produce healthy relationships. It doesn't produce spaces where people trust you, and it doesn't create career longevity. So if you're going to be, especially like on social media, if you're going to be, a larger than life personality or have a, personality of, I don't know, like I said, stoner or whatever, or, the wild person or whatever, you better back that up with showing up in all the spaces that you're in. That's where you can really shine and thrive. If you can have that perfect equation. I got to shout out here Niecy Nash. Like, she's one of those people that just, when she's in the room, she's in the room. She has an amazing presence. She's funny, she's fun, she's free. She'll go to auditions and she'll, I don't want to give away her thing or whatever, but she, does this thing sometimes at her auditions that she used to do, where she'll tell this story. She'll arrive and like tell this story about, whatever. But she would have casting directors eating out of the palm of her hands. But best believe, homegirl knows her lines. She shows up on time. She knows how to communicate with people. She's intelligent as I don't know what. And so these are the things that I want you all to start thinking about as creatives. I think sometimes we try to copy other people's personas and we don't know all the other like back end behind the scenes things that they're doing to, get the work, get the respect. Right. And so you just got to keep that in mind. And this also goes to, and I'm not, I don't care anymore. I get so like caught up with, being politically correct, politically incorrect. That is really important to me. But I say this, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings or anything, but like this also goes for my pretty people, my beautiful, gorgeous people. You can be as good looking and beautiful and gorgeous as you want, but if you are not showing up and being professional, nobody cares. Yeah, you'll be nice to look at, but then if you're wasting people's time or, misrepresenting yourself behind the scenes, no one's going to respect you. And again, it makes people hard to trust you, which ultimately impacts your career longevity in your relationships with people. All right. Please keep that in mind. Think about how you're presenting yourself. Communication is key. Okay. How you communicate is key. The other thing I want to talk about here when we talk about presenting ourselves is social media. Now, social media is such a powerful tool, especially in today's times. People are getting paid on social media, people are doing incredible things on social media. And so, you know, I want you to really start thinking about how you're utilizing social media to really build your brand. And look, there's so many teachers and gurus out there about your social media branding and how to build your social media brand. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about how you present yourself as an artist and how you present yourself as a professional. And so, some of the things that I just want you to be mindful of is these platforms are used to speak your mind, state your opinions, to show off what you got going on, to give a slice of life of like, who you really are. But I just want you to be careful and thoughtful and mindful about what you're putting out there. Okay. We are in a time where we are doing so many different things. Companies, corporations, when they bring you on, they want to be represented in a professional way, in a space where, they feel dignified as well. And if everything on your social media feed is profanity or, legs wide open or, I don't know, what are the things that I've seen, doing drugs or ranting about something all the time, those are red flags. And I know that a lot of there are some people that we, parade around or we applaud or, they book work or whatever who are very, vocal about things. But I do feel that there comes a time where, like, that to me is very limiting. If that's what you're building your brand around, it does put you in a box. And I just think that there's so much more that you can share about yourself rather than, kind of, I guess, following the crowd on whatever is in right now. This is really more so where I'm trying to get at right now is more so around politics. Okay. Or just like pop culture moments. Now, TikTok, I love TikTok, and you will probably see me every once in a while on TikTok without makeup talking about, the woman in Pakistan, the black woman in Pakistan, or, whatever latest, MTV award show, whatever. But for the most part, you won't really see me doing that because a lot of times I just don't feel that it's necessary for me to commentate on everything that's going on in the world or pop culture or have to really put my, opinion out there every single time. And, in terms of politics, we're in such a, let me take this back. A couple of years ago, I was taking a class and it was just like for artists, entrepreneurs, and the political climate was very, much like what we're in right now. And the teacher touched on this and she said something, and it actually upset a lot of people in the class. And we all were artists and creatives. She said something like, I don't need to share my political views with people. I don't need to discuss it. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm doing a service. I'm putting out goods, and anything that's around politics, I just don't need to share it. And I remember people were like, you should, like, what? Blah, 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 blah. I want to know what side you're on. And she was like, that's the problem right there. You want to know what side I'm on. But what if I'm not on his side? What if I'm on the side of me staying focused, moving forward, and doing the things that I have to do for my family, for my life? And I don't know, that just like really struck me because I was like, whoa, that's really interesting. We do a lot, we talk a lot about, speaking up about, politics, and then you disagree with people and all these things happen. And I just found from my experience that it just doesn't really get you anywhere. And the real change and impact is when you can do things such as be a creative and not have to talk about it. You don't have to get up on the mountaintop and share who your candidate is or, the things that you're voting for or voting against or whatever. I don't think it's necessary. But what I do think is powerful and even more supersedes that is how you move without having to speak. And what I mean by this is, again, going back to the Michael Sorter Foundation and to try to keep it somewhat brief, I was very politically active. I went to a lot of different rallies. I was protesting. I I added people on social media. I was very angry. I'll just say that. And the catalyst for me creating Michael's Daughter Foundation, not only because, I had my father who was incarcerated for a big part of my life, and I wrote a one woman show around that. That was one of the main reasons why I created the Michael's Daughter Foundation, because I had known a lot of kids growing up and even kids that I had taught that had incarcerated parents. But one of the things that charged me up, emotionally was back in 2014 with all the Trayvon Martin trial stuff. And I just shared this on my social channel not so long ago, but I was so just taken aback and so hurt about hearing people say just horrible things about, young Black men and justifying Trayvon Martin's death, because he quote unquote dressed like a thug. And I just was like, no, there has to be another way. There has to be another way. And, all of the protesting that I did, it didn't really move the needle. And so I was like, okay, how can I help be a part of shifting the world's perspective or perception of what it means to be a young Black or Brown child coming from an under resourced community? And I just thought that storytelling was the most powerful tool that there was. And if we could help to depict, people of color, Black and Brown children in a more positive light, maybe that can play a role into helping to shift, the perceptions of us. And so yeah, that's why I created the Michael Slaughter Foundation. That's one of the major reasons why I created it. And for me, in my mind, I feel like to me, that's more powerful than going on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and ranting against the machine. I don't think it gets you anywhere, as an artist to just rant, curse out, say all these things, or even like evoke more fear and anger in the world. I think creating spaces that are safe, where people can feel seen and heard, is really the way to go. And that's my personal opinion. Take it or leave it. But that's how I feel on that. But yeah, and also the other thing too is, in this political climate that we're in, and, how you're depicting yourself on social media, yes, I know we're so divisive right now around a lot of this stuff. But again, you want to just be mindful of, like, you don't know what casting director you're going in for tomorrow. You don't know who they voted for. You don't know who the director. And I know at the end of the day that, you don't want to be afraid of those things. But, also at the end of the day, if you're talented, you're talented. They're going to hire you no matter what. But there might be some uneasiness or some distrust if, you know, everything on your social channel is you just like raging against the machine. And, this could be somebody that they work with or something. I don't know. I'm just saying that you want to just do yourself a huge service and favor on just putting your best foot forward and representing yourself as professional as possible, so you can, really maximize your opportunities and relationships with people. And I think sometimes the most beautiful relationships are those where you're coming from like a completely different background, from other people, and you can come together through creativity and, learn from each other. So anyway, that's my little Pollyanna, philosophy here. The other thing too, just with social media and like raging against things, I have a story that I want to share, and I love this person to death, and I will never say their name. But years ago, they did come out to LA, and all their tweets were just like, I hate LA, LA so fake, and blah blah blah. And they had an audition for something, and they were like kind of like tweeting, their whole like LA journey, and they had an audition for something, and they went on Twitter and they were just like, oh, the guy on the piano was so terrible, and blah blah blah, like, it just sucks, and LA sucks, and like all these things. And so we were like hanging out, and their agent called and was like, you need to take that tweet down. You have a call back tomorrow, but you need to take those tweets down. And they were just like, oh my God, like what? And so I just hopped into like my PR brain, and I was like, okay, you have to put a tweet out because you know that they're reading your tweets now. You have to just put like accountability tweet. And then tonight you rehearse your lines and rehearse your song, and you go in there and knock it out of the ballpark. And so we created some little statement. They went in there, they did their thing, but they said that the room was so different from when they went in for the first audition. And obviously and unfortunately, they didn't get the role. And so these are things I just want you to be mindful and aware of, you know, especially on TikTok, because we're so unfiltered on TikTok. I know I can be sometimes, but you want to just make sure that whatever you're putting out there, you're not putting somebody down or raging against something. You want to, again, just give yourself the best position for opportunities. So, this is another thing about minding your business. And this isn't, I got a little play on words here, but I want you to be mindful of your business. And one of the things that, is another key point that I want to talk about is be aware and mindful of the people that you are recruiting to represent you. Yes. So in LA, and I think it's not just LA, because I've had reps in New Orleans and I've met with people in Atlanta, and also I've had reps in New York. You can come across people that are, say that they're managers or agents and they want to work with you, but they are so unprofessional too, or they, present themselves in a way that isn't cohesive with where you're trying to go in life. And that can work against you. I've had some great reps, and I've also had some reps that, were known to be out and doing things and saying things, and it's I don't want to put people out there because I love them all, and they all did their best. But I've had reps that have ended up in the trades for saying sexist remarks, or being accused of doing things, and the Me Too movement and stuff. And for that one in particular, I didn't know about or whatever. Actually, no, I wouldn't say I didn't know about, but I would say that I didn't know the extent of it until the Me Too movement. This person did have a reputation, or there were words or things being said out in the business about, oh, this guy is like a womanizer or something. And I just remember looking back, young Ciera, and being like, man, I wish I would have been a little more thoughtful and mature, and not so like, just I need an agent, to not have had that person rep me. They never did anything with me, thank God. And if he knew that he couldn't try anything with me, because he knew I would have kicked his. But what I want to say is that, be mindful of your representatives' reputations, because if they are the forefront person that's repping you to get a job, or the person that some PR person of ABC or whatever is going to be reaching out to get information about you, to promote their movie or their show or whatever, you can't have somebody that's going to make sexist and racist remarks, or be known to be sleazy or whatever, representing you, because people are going to look at that and be like, oh, even like years ago, I was working with a publicist, and it was so interesting and funny when I look back at it. But this publicist, they were trying to kind of like ride off of the things that I had going on. And so anytime like they would walk me down the red carpet, they would be taking videos and photos of themselves on the red carpet, when it was like, oh, you need to be walking me down the red carpet, dude. Like, don't, do that. And it kind of came to a head at one point when I was on the red carpet. I think it was when I did the Nicolas Cage thing. I can't remember, but this person literally got in front of the paparazzi as they were taking pictures of me on the red carpet and Nicolas Cage, and was taking selfies of themselves. I kid you not. And one of the paparazzi people came up to me and was livid, like pissed off, and was like, that guy shouldn't be repping you. He got in front of my photos, blah, blah, blah. Like, just was so mad. And I just was like mortified, and I was upset. And, anyway, ended up not working with that person. So, these are things you just want to be mindful of. And the signs are always there. But I think as artists and creatives, we're always, especially when you're first starting out, you're looking for a way in no matter what sometimes. And it's like, oh, if I got to go with the guy that, does the splits in the middle of a bar, or in the middle of an award show, or farts in public or whatever, then like, so be it. I'll go with that person, and it's like, no, baby, like you don't have to. There's better people out there that are for you, and you can be a little bit more patient in looking for those people, instead of trying to force something to make something work because you think that this is the only way out or the only way through. Okay, so please, I want you to be mindful of the people that you are bringing onto your team, to represent you. Okay. Think of it like that. They're representing you. And sometimes I don't like this whole like they work for you, they better do like, no, that's not what I'm saying. They're a representative for you. They represent your artistry, your creativity, everything that you are trying to do and build. They represent you. And so you want to think about who those people are in the forefront of, communicating on your behalf to studios and network heads and casting directors. Okay. Super important. Oh, yeah. I just wanted to say this little phrase right here. Good reps open doors, bad ones close them. And Lord knows I've had my share of bad reps. Again, they all mean well, they all did the best they could, but I have had some that have misrepresented me and actually have, tarnished some business relationships that I've had. And it took me a long time to get the courage to speak up or really be mindful and aware to be like, oh my gosh, I don't need to be repped by you. So again, if any of my former reps are listening, I love you guys. I hope that you're doing amazing. I know that you did the best that you can, and this is no slight on you at all. I wish you well. Love you. Okay. So anyway, I digress. But the big things, these are my key takeaways that I want you to think about. Okay. Again, how you approach the things that you are doing in lieu of or in addition to your artistry, your creativity is just, it's paramount to everything. You're not going to be on set 365 days out of the year. You're just not. You're not going to be on set 365 days out of the year and, 24 hours, 7 days a week. You're just not. Some of us, if we're fortunate enough, you're going to be on set maybe up to 9 months out of the year, working on a show, but you're going to, be in different spaces and do different things and sometimes take on second line jobs, to supplement income or, to maybe be a part of like some other passion projects. And so the way that you approach those things is key. And I would tell you the way you're going to really win is if you approach those things with gratitude, appreciation, humility, and being in a space of service. And again, life will reflect back so many reasons for you to be grateful, so many reasons to serve you and your wishes and the things that you're trying to do. And, so many reasons to just be in appreciation and joy. Okay. Second thing is remember, you want to treat your career like a business, baby. You are a business. You are a brand, honey. Okay. So the way you walk into spaces, the way you show up, even if you're waiting tables or, whatever, catering, all those other jobs that I mentioned, show up professional, show up like the Snickers brand that you are, Cadillac, the Mercedes-Benz brand, the Maserati brand that you are. Show up. And what I mean by that is be thoughtful, kind, professional, keep it sweet and simple. It's not a hard thing to do. Always communicate professionally. That's number 3. Keep your communication professional and not emotional. Save the emotional for your creativity, for when you get on camera, whenever you get behind the microphone. If you're a musician, before you start playing, channel that into that. But when it comes to business setting, business communication, keep it professional. Be mindful of professional hours, business hours as well. Number 4, be thoughtful and mindful of how you're presenting yourself online and again, in person. All right. Again, if you got a big personality where your whole shtick is being, the laid back stoner type who doesn't care, or, the beautiful or handsome, good looking person that just, knows how to hit those angles, great. But you better back all that up with showing up on time, being professional, being an artist that's reliable and trustworthy. Okay. That's going to get you far. And then lastly, I want you guys to really choose your teams wisely. Choose the people that are at the forefront representing you and what you're doing and what you're building. Okay. Look, guys, it has been a journey for me, and I've always wanted to talk about this. I've even thought about, creating a course about, how creatives, mainly actors, can be more professional. And so if this is something that you're interested in, please leave a comment down below. I'll definitely, look to build something like that really soon. Or, if you have any other topics or ideas that you want me to discuss, let's get into it. So, yeah, guys, this is the new chapter. This is the next chapter for the Trive. I will be having guests on, but we're going to be doing some of these solo podcast interviews or podcast episodes, I should say. And I will just share more in depth of things that I probably touch on my social media, or just things that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. And so again, thank you so much for stopping by. This is the In Tribe. It is for the inspired, thriving tribe, which is you. And please remember that I am right here with you in this business. I'm walking alongside of you, and hopefully I'm able to continue to provide, some insight, some guidance, and also just a helping hand to help you navigate your creative journey. All right. So I love you, and I can't wait to see you soon. All right. Bye.